Hello everybody, welcome back to another video, and today we are going to be talking about a heat wave that could be going across a lot of the eastern United States and the central United States, and a little bit of a cooler trend across the west for now. This will be over the next 2 to 3 weeks, and it will feel really good for the west, but for the central and eastern United States, we could be 20 degrees above average in some areas, with 80s to 90s across some areas. That is not good. We are talking 80s in parts of Minnesota during your September, which is, that's normally way more than we usually do see. But I do want to go ahead and cover something. So as many of you do know, today is 9/11, or this is Tuesday, but tomorrow is 9/11 for me, but it is 9/11 for everyone. And I just definitely do want to honor everyone that was in this. I do want to remember the people that sacrificed their lives to save people. They were heroes to our country, and also the people that just couldn't make it out and were working there. We do want to honor them. We will never forget them, but we will never forget, even though this did really, it really did, kind of stop our country. That was not a good day. But you do have to definitely think about how it did make our country stronger. So this was a really bad time when this did happen. This was not a good, not a good day. But you do have to think about how far we have gotten and how much of a country we have how good of a country we have came together. And that is a really bad sight to see on that day. You can see how bad it was. But you do have to remember how that did shape our country to what it is today. We're still not the best, but, we're getting there, and we are getting better as a country. But I did want to go ahead and cover that and honor everyone. We will never forget about that day, but I did just want to go ahead and cover that. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get into today's video. So as you can see right now, here is your Wednesday. So, of course, this is Tuesday for me, but if we were looking at your Wednesday, you can see how across the west we are seeing those cooler temperatures. This will be the trend for this week and maybe early next week, but that will start to change a little bit. As you can see, some of that warm air to the north could start dipping down, but our main focus right here is definitely across here. Now, across the west, we are seeing those fall temperatures. That is a very good sight to see for them. They've been in really hot temperatures. There have been some wildfires. As many of you do know, they've kind of been in a drought. It's not been a good time. But they're still going to have those fires in place, but at least you do get a little bit of a cool down for those people that it's just been really hot for you. So that's a good, it's pretty good for you right now. But you can see across the central and eastern United States, it's kind of a different story. It's just really hot. And you can see how this does just keep moving. And we are about 8 to 14 degrees above average in some spots. Average about 6 to 10 degrees above average. But you can see how, intense this heat will get. And it's very, very intense. You can see there's a couple breaks across parts of the northern tier of the United States that do move through. But, we're really not expecting that. Now, you can see the heat does build across parts of the west, but there will still be parts where it does feel like fall. So it won't be way above average here. You can see how it's kind of a mixture. But you can see how that cool air does move in by early next week. So maybe on your Friday, Saturday, we could be seeing those warmer temperatures. But maybe by early next week, it kind of does change as this big heat wave. This is probably going to be the biggest one that does move east. But you can see here it is. It's very big. And you can see 20 degrees above average in parts of North Dakota, parts of Minnesota. We have really far above average temperatures. But if you're anywhere across the upper Midwest early next week, it's going to be very warm and, way above average. But you can see how there's 80s across some of these areas. And this will be your, early nighttime. If we were to go ahead and move into your daytime, you can see how there's 80s across a lot of these areas and moving down into those 90s. And then you can see across a lot of the eastern United States we're in those 80s too. So this is a little different than we usually do see. That's about 10 degrees above average, or maybe 10 to 15 for the eastern United States. And across the central United States, especially the northern tier, that's about 20 degrees above average. And also, it's about 10 to 15 for parts of the other central United States. Now, you can see across the west, we do have some 50s and 60s, maybe even low 70s in place. That is a very comfortable fall-like, that's very comfortable fall-like. But across the eastern United States, it's a little bit of a different story, especially the central United States, too. We cannot forget. But you can see how across your Tuesday, it kind of just does remain in place. Moves a little bit east, but we still do have those really hot temperatures. And parts of the west are in those cooler temperatures. Not for long, though. You'll have your cooler temperatures, and then we'll kind of start to move into a different pattern. But you can see how this does keep moving, and it kind of just keeps these really warm temperatures across a lot of these regions, and pretty much they're all next week. And then by late week, this has it moving a little bit east by late next week, and you can see how these cooler temperatures are kind of pushing it a little bit over. They're kind of pushing those warmer, hot temperatures over, and you can see how it does kind of, it kind of tries to stick around, but the cooler temperatures start to inch a little bit eastward by the day, so it won't, it's not like it's going to happen like that, but yeah, gradually it'll come in. You can see how there's some heat that is gradually coming into parts of the west, so this should move over here, while these warmer temperatures may move over here, so that's, a little bit of a pattern flip. But you can see about late next week, we still do have really warm temperatures across the east. Finally starting to get to some normal temperatures across parts of the central United States towards North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska. You can see how we're in those 70s and 60s, a little, pretty average. But you can see across the east we still do have those 80s and some 90s in place. So that's not a good thing to see. But you can see how those cooler temperatures definitely are starting to move in a little bit more. And pretty much all the warmest of the temperatures are in Canada, so we really don't have to worry about them by late next week. The warmest temperatures for the United States, that'll kind of be Canada's problem, but we still do have a lot of those warmer temperatures that are in place by your 20th of September. So pretty much next weekend is kind of when we should start to see a little bit of a transition to start happening. And you can see how by your Sunday it's still a little warmer, definitely starting to move away. And you can see definitely by your Tuesday that you can see there's a little bit of a pattern flip. It's still warm across a lot of the United States, but you can see the warmest is over here where we have those darker reds and oranges. And you can see we still do have the, we have those lighter colors over here that's still above average, but not as much. If we were to look at the temperatures, they aren't that hot. Now you can see we still do have our warmer temperatures across some of the United States, but you can see how we do have 70s across 60s across parts of the Northeast. You can see it, and then across part of the South, we still do have our 80s and 90s. That that's not uncalled for. We usually do see that, but you can see how there's a lot of these cooler temperatures that do move across the air. They're still not cool. They're 60s to 70s. We're kind of in those mild conditions. 60s and 70s, but over a big chunk of the United States. And you can see how those are even in the West. We still do have these 80s across parts of California. Even though you're above average here, we still do have these 60s and 70s in place. So you can see even 60s and 70s are a little above average for you in the West, parts of the West, and especially in those mountain ranges. But you do have to remember that still does feel, that's really comfortable. So it's not like that's hot. So even though we're above average, it still does feel, it feels pretty good. But if we were to move into your Thursday on your September 26th, you can see how this is our last hour. So this could definitely change. This is 384 hours out. So this is at the end of September. So there's a lot that could change. But you can see kind of the idea of what this is saying, where we see warmer temperatures across the west. And then we see these cooler temperatures moving across the central United States, parts of the eastern United States. But you can see how we do have a good cool down across here. But across the west we have a little bit of a warm up. So it's kind of a flip. You can see this is the end of the month. This is right now. So you can see how there's a huge difference of what's going on here. So that's, there's right now and there's next week. 2 week, by the end of the month, which is about 2 or 3 weeks from now. You can see beginning or right now, and then that is, the end of the month. So that is really different, a good pattern flip. But you can see in the middle of that, we do have a huge heat wave across the central and eastern United States of 80s and 90s. That is crazy for this time of year. That is really warm. But if we were to go ahead and look at your European ensemble models, you can see we do kind of have the same concept. This doesn't go out as far. This goes to September 20th. But you can see cooler across the west, warmer across the central and parts of the eastern United States. And you kind of see how we do have this heat wave, the bigger heat wave that does start early next week, and then we see this cooler temperatures move back into the west. But you can see 15 to 20 degrees above average here. So if we were to look at your shaded, no, it actually doesn't have shaded, but this would be around your 80 degree area, maybe even a little bit more, but around 80 degrees for upper Midwest, 90s and 80s for down here, and then 80s across a big chunk of the eastern United States. And you can see how this does move east. But you can see how these cooler temperatures do start to move a little bit east too. And those warmer temperatures are starting to move a little bit east across parts of the west. So you can see we do have this window of the cooler temperatures. and then this big chunk of the warmer air is starting to move out. But at this time that we'd still have about 7 days before everything moves out, so we'd have like another week. But you can see how it does start to change. But you can see by your 20th, this is still a pretty, way above average temperatures. Some 20s above average, 10 to 15 degrees above average. We still are way, pretty above average across a lot of the eastern United States. Parts of the central United States, if you can see this cooler air, we are going to have to start watching when it comes into 2 or 3 weeks from now. But in between that, we are expecting a huge heat wave at 80 to 90 degrees. So that is not a good thing to see, especially for this time of, when fall is starting. So this is not a good thing to see. But we are expecting some cooler temperatures by the end of the month to start moving in, hopefully. But here's your site for the next 6 to 10 days. You can see how, across the west we're seeing those cooler temperatures, and then across, the central and eastern United States, especially a big chunk of, this region across parts of the Ohio Valley, also into parts of the eastern upper Midwest, the Great Lakes region, we have really above average temperatures, 80 degrees, maybe even 90 degrees in some areas across these regions. We could be definitely seeing that, but that's not a good thing to see. Then you can see we do have our 80s across here, maybe even some 90s in the southern part of that, and then of course we have our 80s across here too. So that's kind of what we're looking at when it does come to this. Across Texas, definitely some 90s that could come in place, also Louisiana. But if we were to go ahead and move over into your 8 to 14 day outlook, you can see how it kind of does move east a little bit, but we're kind of still in the same pattern. Now, this would be 2 weeks from now when everything does start to move east. So about 3 weeks from now is when we do see a little bit of a change. But you can see how we do have these above average temperatures over some of the same areas around your Great Lakes region, kind of like that. And you can see how we do have a big chunk of the U.S. under this above average area. So that's kind of what we're looking at. So especially the east 2 weeks from now is when we can see the east warming up a little bit. And then the west, you can see those warmer temperatures move in, and you can see those normal temperatures. Now they're putting normal. These could be some of your below average temperatures. Anywhere in here could be your below average temperatures if you wanted to look at this cooler shade. It's still above average, but it's a little lighter, so they don't know as much. Could be where that cooler air comes in. I don't definitely agree with this right here, but this could be where your cooler air is, and then your warmer air across here, and then your warmer air across here, and this will start moving east as we get into 3 weeks from now, which I am going to go ahead and show you the monthly outlook. This is not the best thing to look at, I do want to warn you, but I still do want to show everyone kind of what I have been looking at. So if we were to go over here to the monthly outlook, I am on the 3 to 4 week outlook, that you can see still really warm temperatures. But if we were to look at your 30-day outlook, now this has changed. So this is on the 31st of August, so not too recent. We're around your getting close to mid-September, but you can see how we do have these warmer temperatures across the west that does move in, and then your cooler temperatures across parts of the upper Midwest. So even if this is the most updated, we do still think that sometime later this month we could get this pattern to start developing, where we have some warmer temperatures across the south, and then across the west we do have them too, and then across a lot of the other chunk of the U.S. across here, we could be seeing our cooler temperatures. So we're waiting for that pattern to come in place. Once again, probably the end of September is when that will happen. But right now, we do have a huge heat wave that is bringing 80 to 90 degrees across the central and eastern United States, parts of the southern United States, but across the west, we are seeing cooler temperatures right now. This weekend we'll have a little bit of a warm up in the west, and early next week we'll have a cool down again. It's kind of going to be a flip-flop pattern for you, but if you're across the west, be glad you do have a cool down over the next week to maybe a week and a half, but you will get a little bit warmer. But really, if you're anywhere across the central and eastern United States, just get ready for the heat. Do what you need to do because it's going to be really hot. And across the west, be happy you're in a little bit of a cool down for now because you won't be later this month, as some models are suggesting. But I do hope you all enjoyed today's video. If you did, consider subscribing and leaving a like down below. I will have a video on the tropics tomorrow, something that could enter the Gulf that I am definitely keeping my eye on. So I do hope you all enjoyed today's video. If you did, once again, consider subscribing and leaving a like down below. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great day.